Welcome to Perspectives in Peds, or PIP for short, your go-to podcast for insights into paediatric practice. From clinical approaches and emerging research to the everyday wins and challenges, we bring you OT perspectives that inform, inspire and spark conversation.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Pipcast. Today we have a very exciting episode. Exciting for us, I don't know how excited they are about it, but I am joined by Chelsea, our practice manager, and Eliza, our family liaison coordinator. Hello.
Hello.
So we thought this would be a fun episode just to, put the admin team front and centre. It's something that we really value here in terms of just the fact that you do everything that we can't do very well at all. And I guess highlighting the importance of collaboration amongst a team and that there's huge benefits in terms of having a quality admin team. So I think to give some insights into what your role looks like, and we acknowledge that every practice is different, but what does a Monday morning at the front desk look like from your perspective?
It's a good one.
Very hectic. I think, as expected, it's just the influx of everything that's happened over the weekend. We're picking up stuff that we left on Friday. We do a lot of sort of contacting on Friday and we can't always get a hold of everyone. So I guess that flows through into the Monday morning. So we come in, the inbox is full, we've got plenty of voicemails to get through, and managing that as well as just the general stuff as well, like the payments and all of that. It can be a little bit overwhelming, but I think once you do get a handle on it, it dissipates, but it's definitely hectic in the mornings.
And then you've got to deal with all the OTs arriving, just nattering on about their weekends and wanting to socialise in your busiest time.
Definitely a hum as they're walking through the door to start their day, start their week, for sure.
I guess off the back of that and the OTs, we're going to try not to make it too much of a roasting, but what's the funniest or what are some of the things that the OTs often, I guess, report at the front desk?
Ooh. I would just say the funniest part about it is just the manner they go about it. I think the way that our clinic is set up, we've got our admin desk, it's our little domain, and then there's that perfect doorway for them to just sort of sneak their head around and make their way. They've all got their own little routine of how they sort of approach the front desk, and I think it can be anything. It is like, especially on a Monday, as Chelsea said, it is sort of maybe a weekend debrief, or sometimes it's just like a last minute thing that's about to happen for their client that's about to come in, which we sort of need to act on quickly, or I don't know, it very varies all the time.
Do you each have your OT that annoys you the most in terms of how they approach the desk? You don't have to name them.
I was only saying it's not too frequent these days that I am at the front desk, but I was reminded about how that feels, I guess, when I'm in the middle of doing something or trying to get through something, and they've got a bit of time to spare before a client turns up, and they linger around with their questions or just sort of stand and hover. And again, as Liza said, I think it's the way at our desk specifically may be positioned, but there's a few that tend to do it a bit more than the others.
They know who they are.
Yeah. And then we also actually realised that just amongst us that there are some that like to have that at the front desk, which potentially has set the precedence for them to come out and encourage it, and that they maybe don't know that there's a few of us that get a bit overwhelmed or are like buzz off when we're trying to get stuff done and they're up for a chat. So, I think it depends on the person too.
Definitely.
Some of the other daily realities of just being at the front desk, what's something funny or surprising that a parent has said or asked of you at the front?
Sometimes I get a lot of families coming in, and despite our very clear signage about no food in our waiting room, we get some full McDonald's orders and everything being brought in. Oh, it's okay if we eat this in here. And it's a little bit like, probably not today. I'm sorry, you're going to have to eat that one in the car, which is a little bit of an awkward conversation considering they probably look like they've come through the drive-thru on the way.
Is it a bit different if they bring a coffee for you though, Liz?
Yeah, of course. I'll let it slide.
What about you, Chelsea?
Oh, look, there's definitely been some funny funny moments over the years. I remember when we had the benches as seats in our old waiting room. So it's different to the big setup that we've got now, but in our humble beginnings, and we had the very small waiting area. We had these long benches, and I had a dad that used to sleep on them during the session, and got quite comfortable with that arrangement. So it became a fortnightly occurrence. And I recall even going up with the FPOS terminal to get payment, just to, hey, wake up, like, so it was his afternoon nap time, whilst his child happened to be in therapy. But that was, I used to find that quite funny. It was a funny one.
Yeah, classic. So what are some of the things that you see or hear all the time that you think the OTs just don't even realise is happening?
Them. Like seriously, them. They are so loud. And yeah, that was the first one that popped to my mind. We're often, obviously being on the phone, like our roles are so different. So, when they're not with clients and they're having their breaks and they're catching up about their weekends and stuff like that, we can often sometimes be on the phones, or having a difficult conversation with a client about something, and then they're playing hacky sack or having their brain breaks. But yeah, they're quite loud. But that would be one of them.
So tips for other admin teams working with OTs is like get some good headphones.
Maybe a divider.
And a sign around your neck.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Some cue cards. Yeah.
In terms of a bit more like behind the scenes, what's something from your perspective that looks really easy from the outside but is potentially way more complicated than we would realise?
I would say enforcing our cancellation policy sometimes can be really tricky to navigate. It seems pretty clear cut of we've got our deadline and we sort of have that on all of our service agreements and everything like that. So the families do know sort of the policies that we have in place, but I guess it's hard to navigate. Sort of every situation is individual, and it's sort of, you really need to take time to sort of read the situation and maybe look past those policies that we have. Yes, they're good to have, but sometimes it's just not appropriate, and it might be just a chat with Chelsea to see like maybe what can we do for them in this situation. I think that's something that is forever. I'm working on that, is just sort of reading when it is applicable, when it isn't, or if we can figure something out for the family. I think that goes a long way for them as well.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that our admin team do such a great job of navigating those calls. So it is very separate to, I guess, what they're doing as a therapist in therapy. So all the admin, chats that the girls have, our team is definitely aware of them, that they take place, but because they don't hear them and they're not necessarily seeing how they land and having those conversations themselves, they probably do forget how frequently we're having those chats about all the different policies, as they, they're only relevant when they're relevant. So, and given all the families that we do have, there's quite a lot of those chats taking place on a daily basis.
And I think by nature, not the whole team, but there's definitely some OTs, myself included, that don't naturally lean towards being quite procedural and policy driven. So I think that's something that I've learned to really respect, because they just are more complicated than they appear on the outset. So I think that's a really good one, cancellation policies. Is there anything else that is way more complicated behind the scenes?
Navigating our booking. So all the preferences forms, term by term, playing Tetris. We often refer to it as Tetris because it's, trying to make it work for all of our families, having those chats. There's often back and forth, multiple phone conversations in order for that to happen. I know that our OTs appreciate what goes into that, probably don't understand it. They start the term and there's all these miraculous appointments scheduled into their calendars. But there's a huge amount of work on the back end that goes into that for sure.
That's a really good one. I think I know a little bit more of the answer to this about Chelsea, I guess, because we've worked together a very long time and our roles cross over a little bit more. But in terms of what's your personal superpowers, I guess, that help keep the practice running smoothly? Liz, what are yours?
I think it really is just being able to prioritise. I think as we sort of touched on, there can be so much going on at the desk at one time. And I think it really is just breaking it down and just ordering things how you need to just keep yourself afloat and then keep the front desk afloat as well. And I think that goes such a long way. It seems simple of just sort of like breaking things down, but I will literally get a pen and paper out and write down a list and highlight them off as I go. And I think just having that tangible list in front of me makes it a whole lot easier. It gets everything out of my head. I think our online systems are great, and it's great to have the check boxes and everything like that. We can move things around, but I think sometimes diverting back to just a classic checklist can go, it really helps me. And I think that is just the way to go in terms of there is things that can be taken to the bottom of the list compared to things that are happening right in front of you, i.e. people coming in, taking payments, important calls, as opposed to maybe filling in some available spots for next week, a request from OT or something like that.
It's constant triaging, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, we don't know how lucky we've got it, really. It's a massive skill. What about you, Chelsea? What's your superpower? One of.
I'd like to think I do a pretty good job of like putting myself somewhere between our families and our OTs. So, you know, I feel like I've often got that feedback, whether it be from our OTs or reception, that, you know, I can be looking blankly sometimes when they've come to me with something, and it's because I'm thinking, okay, like how is this going to look? What are the repercussions of this? How's it going to sit with the families? Like doing a risk assessment, basically. Like I definitely think that's probably a bit of a superpower, that everything is following a bit of a process in my head so that it helps me to make a decision on something quickly that I have somewhat thought out. I think that has potentially put out some little fires before there's been a big fire. So yeah, I'd probably say that's my superpower.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. Like Chelsea's really the like yin to my yang. We talk about that a lot in terms of, so I could just list off all of my weaknesses and they're probably like a strength of Chelsea's. So one of the other girls actually said in an interview, mind you, that Chelsea and her are like my handlers. And I've never heard a more accurate description of the relationship, because it's true. I think I am one walking risk sometimes in terms of ideas and all of those, and Chelsea's the grounded one that just kind of provides a bit more forethought around this is how it's going to look. And then the whole admin team just scaffold the crap out of how this could actually happen. So
you've just created a really good visual. I think that's a really good way to put that. I think that we've got the perfect balance of all those sort of skills, don't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's yeah. Off the back of that, strengths and weaknesses, what's something that you do that OTs would absolutely butcher if they were in charge? Now you can roast them a little bit. You can name and shame
Everything?
if you like.
Is that a bit harsh? Okay.
No, probably not.
Look, we do have some OTs that have got some really, really great admin strengths, but their strength is more in their OT, their clinical work.
Diplomatic.
Yeah, like I think I'll go with navigating a lot of those tricky conversations, and the reasoning behind that is all of our OTs have become OTs because they want to help people, and I just think that they're probably like, not that we're not bleeding hearts, but we've got those policies to protect us, and I just think that they'd fold sometimes, you know, like yeah, we definitely, it's not sustainable. Yeah. I think that we wouldn't be able to stay afloat if they were just to be like, oh, no, it's okay. Okay that you're late. And I'm always actually picking them up on that. You know, if there is a late client, their client walks in, oh, I'm sorry, I'm late. And their natural default is to say, oh, that's okay. I'm like, maybe think of something else to say, because we don't want them to always think that it's okay. But yeah, it's probably enforcing those trickier.
Yeah, I think that that's something unique that the admin team, the lens at which you view the clinic is very different to the OTs, that we're kind of like get stuck in our own little bubble. And I get to kind of see from both angles, because I'm an OT, but I'm also the practice owner. And so I think what they don't realise is that their one client times 15 OTs across the year it's not actually a small problem. Like you said, it's like one little thing, actually that inconsistency has huge flow on. So if you think of anything in that regard, they would absolutely butcher it. What about from your perspective?
I think off the back of that, I think they may just struggle with the sheer volume of it. And I think we touched on this before. We were talking about how I think they may forget every now and then that we don't just have 15 or whatever clients that they do. We're sort of managing a caseload for the entire team, and that's including everything, like bookings, phone calls, emails, school observations, the whole lot. So I think it would just maybe shock them a little bit that we are doing what they do times 12. So it's just like, yeah, I think the volume would just shock them.
Yeah, I agree. I think, we've got 500 odd active families at the moment, and you would know most of them by name. And I think some of the OTs would struggle to remember both parents' names of the kids that they even see. Like, I think that absolutely is a superpower, but also they would 100% butcher that if they had to realise the level of multitasking that they have to do. Also, they can hardly remember to do their cleaning jobs.
Yeah. I was going to chuck that in there, but I didn't want to be too brutal.
I can say it.
Yeah.
What would you say, I guess, are some tips more around the culture? Like, we've sort of gone into the everyday life of admin a little bit and the interplay with the OTs. But from a cultural perspective, if there's other practices that are considering adding in admin to their team and their OTs, like I was, what are some tips you have for small practices or big ones that have somehow got by until now?
I think, we've just gone through a recruiting process for admin. So we're adding a new member to the team. And I think that it just made me reflect on how important it is to have people that are genuinely nice people, for starters. I've always sort of had a belief that we can teach the skills, but you can't necessarily teach a bad person to be nice. So I think in a front-facing role, that's super important, just to have that warm, kind, welcoming person at the front desk. So I'd always probably say that first and foremost is to look out for that.
I think it also is just having that patience and understanding with each other as well. There's so many things that they are so across and sort of can maybe, I feel like with admin and OTs, it's very easy to fall into the sort of the pattern of assuming that the other knows what the other's talking about. There's so many OT terms that I've had to learn, and I think vice versa. There's so many things that are just like second nature to us, and they forget, we forget that they don't know it to the level that we do, and the same goes with them, with their therapy and the terms that they use and what they're trying to prioritize. So I think it's just having that patience and understanding with each other that sometimes you do need to delve into a little bit more and maybe have a little bit more of an explanation, or just to talk it out a little bit so everyone's across it.
And I think too, like even just having that opportunity to collaborate and prioritising that in the weeks. I know that we do it here, and there is always that opportunity for OT and admin to sort of get together, and there's always someone available to chat to about those things. I think that, it's really the only way that we're going to get the result that we want is having that opportunity there. And I know, having worked, in other clinics previously, that's not always there. It can be quite separate, that the practitioners are doing their thing and that reception are just taking care of literally what's in front of them, whether it be clients, phone calls or emails. But there's so much more, I guess, that requires that collaboration. So creating opportunity for that to actually happen.
Yeah, I think that's really important. As a business owner that obviously really values admin, and maybe that's because my admin flaws are quite obvious to me, I think one tip that I have is just to actually prioritize it in the first place, and then lean into the idea that whoever you hire, whether you're just hiring a part-time receptionist to help you out a little bit, or whether you're going down the road of a practice manager, is leaning into the fact that you're hiring someone who is the expert in what they do. So don't try to dictate to them what to do. I think that's probably a tip that I have for people looking at admin support, because I think it's really easy to just say, I've been managing, I do cancellations or I do the bookings, because you've worked on your own for so long and probably done a pretty poor job of it, and then translating those jobs and just saying that you need some extra hands to do it for you, but actually there's so much power in listening to the spin that they would put on it and letting them make it their own. And I think that that's something that I've learnt to just hand over a lot of trust. And in fairness, I get a lot of really good work back. But trust is like a big thing. I think that practice owners really need to impart when they take on admin support, which is what Chelsea was saying before around with recruitment, I think, is you need people that you can trust and freely give it. And obviously there's situations where that might backfire and all of those things. But I think you have to put yourself out there and show a level of vulnerability when you take on admin, because you don't know what they do and they're still learning to fit what you do as well.
It's super interesting actually, having had, we've had OTs that have come from, working on their own, and then we've had brand new grads that have only ever known us and having us. And yeah, as you said, like speaking to those OTs that have had to learn to sort of undo the need to do their own admin and let go of it a bit. I think there's that sense of control around, knowing what their week's going to look like, or, just being across it, feeling the need to be across it, where they can really actually just trust that we've got this, and having that trust there. And then once they can give us the opportunity to have a good crack at that and show them what we can actually do for them.
Yeah.
There's no going back, that's for sure. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think I've got a lot of business mentees as well who are often early stages and growing and considering taking on admin. And when I can't believe that they're even second guessing the option. Like if you can afford it, or create space for you to see one client more, because that's what you're actually good at, and free up some time and money for admin support, I think people, once they do it, they realize how valuable it actually is.
I couldn't actually fathom how a clinic could operate. Having now done it with admin support and a good amount of it too, I just couldn't imagine what it would be like to not have an admin team.
And sustainability and growth, which is, I guess, two of the main goals that people come to me for, both of those things rely on admin. And when I ask them how much time they're actually spending in their week on invoicing, booking in appointments, liaising backwards and forwards to get clients booked in, liaising with schools, chasing unpaid invoices, creating policies and procedures, it's a huge chunk of their week.
I was just about to say, and that's only if things go right. So yeah, you can book something in and then the school calls back and they need to change it because they overlooked something. And then there's a service agreement that was missing, an upload of a working with children check or something. There's all this additional stuff, or getting in contact with a plan manager because an invoice is bounced with no explanation. It's like, how could they possibly navigate doing all that as well as all the other stuff?
Not well.
Yeah. Well, we know that. We do know that. But yeah.
Not very well at all. So yeah, I think it's all those little things that you don't realise that, yeah, like you said, when it goes well, and more often than not it doesn't. A family might call, even the intake process, how much, in a really brief snapshot, what are some of the protective factors that we have in place from the moment a client calls? They don't just ring and say, send me a form and book me in. What does the intake process look like for us?
Initially, it can be that conversation of, I guess most of them do open up with whether we are taking on clients, what our sort of wait list is looking like. But I think it is a skill as well, those calls, of just redirecting them and sort of giving them a brief overview of our services and giving them the opportunity to ask before they even do fill out the wait list form. I think that initial conversation with them is important for them. They might sort of get a general vibe from the get-go and decide whether maybe our services are or aren't for them. And I think for both of our sakes, we want people that are ready to engage and want and align well with our services to pop on our wait list. And I think then just gathering the basic information really sets us up for when we do eventually reach them, is giving them a call that is a little bit more personalised, and it sort of shows that we've really looked into that information that we've provided. And I think it's really good that we've worked really thoroughly on our waitlist form to really open up questions for them to pop as much or as little information as they do want. So when they do reach us, we can sort of really tailor the conversation to them that sort of hits them personally, I think.
I think you've had to learn a lot about what OTs actually do and what we do as a practice and our scope. I think we underestimate how complicated that is too.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with the collaboration that we do have as a team over the years for all of us, we've certainly been able to learn lots, and there's always someone available to be able to sort of inform us on certain things. And there's that, almost instant feedback when we've got queries using a lot of our communication platforms and stuff. Like I know that there's things that come up, during those intake phone calls or inquiry calls that we need to sort of chat to the OTs and say, is this going to be a right fit, or get their thoughts on. So, for sure, there's definitely lots that we do have to pick up and learn about in order to be able to navigate those calls properly.
We've got quite, I would say for us, a large admin team. So we've got 4 people in our admin team. What do you guys do to foster a good culture as a team?
I think just communication is key. I think cliche, but it is really the fundamentals of a good team, and I think our team does it very well. And I think that's why we are so strong and so cohesive in what we do, because we can bring up literally whatever to each other. There's always room for feedback and praise and all of that, and I think we've really nailed that. And as you had touched on before, I think those key sort of qualities of sustainability and growth is something that we really foster. And I think that comes from the OTs as well. It is very much a collaborative thing, but I think we've nailed it.
Yeah, and we do prioritise making time. So we've got, we're always sort of debriefing, I guess, even on a daily basis. But we've got dedicated time for our focus meetings, admin focus meetings, and time to get together and discuss things that have popped up and what we're going to be focusing on in the next fortnight, things like that. So we prioritise making time for those chats so that we can stay connected, know what's going on, and
I think also admin brings like a unique lens, like even on planning day, and I'm sure there's aspects that you're like, oh, like yawn, this is like the most tedious OT related topic. But I think you contribute so much. I think on a broader scale, I think you guys are very cohesive as a team, but I think, what do you think's in place that helps to foster more of a culture even with the OTs as a big team? It's a big question.
I think sort of what I touched on before is just, I think the mutual understanding from each other just goes a long way. Never assuming anything and over communicating at some points, I think, is the way to go. And I think that's what works really well for both of us as an OT team and an admin team. I think, we're really honing in on our communications on all of our booking platforms and everything like that. And I think it just keeps everyone in the loop, gives everyone a peace of mind, and can really set everyone up for the week, and we can sort of touch on areas that might have slipped through the cracks or anything like that. And I think from the feedback that we've got, that goes a long way, and the OTs really appreciate it, and we appreciate it back as well.
I think there's a lot of mutual respect there too within the team, and I think that that creates so much opportunity to create great things. So, our working groups and having admin perspective on a process, and then OT input as well, has made everything just so much easier, because it's through all the different lenses. We're trying to do the best to find something that works. It's never going to work or be 100% for everyone, but I think we've decided that, with everyone's input, that we're going to get the best outcomes. And definitely that mutual respect, OT to admin, admin to OT.
What do you like about working with OTs? Don't take too long.
Look, there's honestly a lot, and that's the only reason I did pause. I think that, I just love the way they think. It's so different to my brain. I probably also could really benefit from OT, so maybe that's probably why I love them so much. But they talk my language in that sense, I guess, that I love the way that they do look at a situation.
I would agree. I think yeah, I feel like the way their brains work are so similar to us, but also so different. And I think it is really valuable to get their different perspective on situations that we may read one way, but they view it completely different way. And I think even outside of work, I really have found that skill valuable. I think they've taught me so much in the time that I've been here, honestly, just about that. Not everything is as it is, and you can look a little bit deeper, and I think that's really taught me to sort of tap into, not that I wasn't empathetic before, but I think just in a different way, in a lot deeper way. I think it's a valuable skill to have, and I really admire it from that profession.
So a few quick ones to sort of wrap it up. What are some pet peeves about, I guess, clinicians in general from an admin's perspective?
The noise in the clinic. As Chelsea said before, I think it's just sometimes after they come out of a session, they've probably just got a lot of energy. They've just been sitting for 50 minutes or doing whatever they've been doing in their therapy room. And they probably just have a lot of pent-up energy that they sort of need to get out somewhere.
There's that empathy. You're like, shut up.
But when we're on the phone having a tricky conversation or trying to book someone in at the front desk and there's a bit of noise in the OT office, it can be a little bit aggravating. But no, it's okay. But sometimes I feel like they do need to read the room.
Good one. What about you, Chelsea?
Yeah, look, I'm actually finding it hard to think of some. I feel like our team especially is done, like we're so open with giving feedback. I feel like it's probably been addressed and they've worked really hard. I think
consider it a public service announcement.
Yeah, I think the questions, so often, we're so accessible to them in the clinic. So the question that they come thinking is an isolated question and then not realising that it's probably a question that I'm going to have to answer another 16 times or, or thinking that their question's really important and are now. So triaging it. I think that comes with, just having access to us though. So that was a pet peeve of mine, but I feel like they've done a lot of work with that. I'm actually quite impressed that I can't think of too many more.
I know, they'll be pleased when they listen to this. They'll be like, Chelsea didn't totally roast us. That's amazing. What about just in general, working in a paediatric clinic? We see people from all different walks of life. What do you think some of the listeners just wouldn't believe if they didn't work here?
Probably how awesome our Christmas party is. Unless they're following, assuming our listeners are following us on the gram.
I love that.
Yeah, that we all genuinely like each other. I take maybe that for granted sometimes, speaking to friends and their partners about their workplaces. I think that people probably look at our photos and our Instagram and think, is that serious? Like, do they really look that happy? Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we genuinely like each other. I think that on a serious note, that connection just fosters such a great, open, collaborative workplace. So I guess our tip is like, go and have a gin together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go to a wine bar. It's food for the soul. So I guess closing, what are some main takeaways, I guess, sharing tips for other teams just in general?
I think, as you touched on before, Jack, I think it is just truly leaning into admin. And if you are going to invest your time and your money and your space for admin, it is letting them do what they do best and just letting them have the space to grow and sort of take over some things that they could in fact do a little bit better for you. Then I think it goes both ways, that will then allow you to free up some time and not have that added stress on top of your sessions of thinking about that cancellation that you forgot to action from the other day and all those little things that do add up and can really, I think, affect your family's perception on your services and your business. I think we do a really good job at setting the tone as the parents and the families come through, and I think that does go a long way.
I think you wrapped that up perfectly, Liz. I don't have too much to add to that. I think that would be the number one takeaway is, to prioritise admin.
And respect their bandwidth. Remember that like you're one OT, I think. And if you've got a 5-minute question and 10 people have a 5-minute question, that is just some basic maths that, that's 50 minutes that they need to dedicate. So, and that's not a bad thing, but just understanding like the breadth of what they have to cover when they're managing the admin tasks of even a small practice. Thanks so much to Chelsea and Eliza for joining us. I guess from my perspective, I think it's important to just validate how important the admin team is, that they're not just reception or admin or practice managers. They're truly like our relationship builders with our clients, and they're the people that are often the first point of contact, they're the last point of contact. And we hope that this conversation just really helped to highlight how important collaboration and understanding is within a team. So thanks for joining us, and we hope you'll be back.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.